This is the Horse Radio Network. Episode 4 of the Stable Scoop Radio Show. Anything is possible, no matter the challenges.
Welcome to the Stable Scoop, with weekly shows delivered right to you. With Helena and Glenn the Geek, live from the stable, it's every week. They'll bring you the news through hail or high water, while using their tails as their own fly swatters. So sit on down and laugh till you poop, cause it's time again for Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop. The Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop.
I am Glenn the Geek.
And I'm Helena B. And this is the Stable Scoop Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network.
Well, I think, Helena, before we get started today, we should send our best out to everybody who spent the weekend evacuated in Louisiana and Mississippi and down south there. We hope they go back and find their farms in one piece and they can bring their horses back home.
Absolutely. They didn't take a direct hit this time, but they took enough of a hit where it's interrupted quite a few lives.
Yeah, and you know, I was a little disappointed in the news coverage. We watched most of the day on Monday, and all it showed was New Orleans, yet the other parts of the state were getting really nailed. And there was a lot of damage, apparently, in the other parts of the state, but you don't hear anything about that.
Well, that's the typical media, I guess.
Yeah. So, and then we have another one, looks like, coming this weekend, and several more behind it. So I hope everybody stays safe and gets out when they have to.
Now, I haven't been paying attention to the weather lately. Where are the other hurricanes located?
Hannah is supposed to hit the eastern coast of Florida today, so we'll see how that goes. Eastern coast of Florida or the Carolinas, not sure yet.
Ooh.
We hope that everybody stays safe, and we have a lot of stuff going on in the show today, so I guess we'll get started.
That's right. Coming up on today's show, we have a very busy news week. We've got local news, international news, and all kinds of news. We also have a great interview with a woman named Anastasia Burke, who is an author, a rider, an instructor, and absolutely a true inspiration to everyone, horse enthusiasts and non-horse people combined. I think you'll really find her story a nice one.
Yeah, I think everybody will be inspired after hearing her story and what she's been through and how she's handled it. It's just been it's a remarkable story.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
So I'm going to get us started with the news. This is a little bit of local news from up here in the Northeast. We had the 108th Myopia Horse Show here in Hamilton, Mass. this past weekend. There was a little bit of scandal. Unfortunately, a fellow by the name of Tom Friedrichs, who operates Verdon Stables in Merrimack, Massachusetts, lost both his ribbon and his prize money at the horse show this week.
Now, what kind of horse show was it?
It was a hunter horse show. It was the horse show that basically sponsors or supports the myopia hunt. So there were hunter courses, hunter classes, jumper classes, and something that's relatively new is a derby cross. But we can't call it a derby cross because the term derby cross has actually been registered. Okay. So we called it the myopia cross.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know what a derby cross is, it's essentially a relay race. It's 3 riders, and they do a specially designed course that's a combination of fixed permanent fences like you'd find on a cross-country eventing course and stadium jumps. And it's timed, so you have to do a clear round and you have to do it the fastest. And it's set to music.
Oh, wow. And then there's 3 of them, like a relay race?
It's like a relay race, right? So the first rider goes, and obviously they try to make a clear round in the fastest time. And as they come around to the last jump, the next rider goes.
No baton, huh?
No baton,
okay.
But they cross through the finish line, and it's really kind of cool to see the strategy about how they switch off from one rider to the next.
Wow, that's cool.
It's really exciting. It's like you can scream and holler as they go by.
Well, that's neat. I haven't seen one of those before.
It is so much fun. It's from a spectator's perspective, it's a really good class to watch.
Oh, cool.
So, in fact, we kind of felt a little bit more like we were at a football game than a horse show. So, this fella, Tom Friedrichs, he's a trainer, and he's got his own stable up here in Mass. And it was himself and two teenage riders that were part of his team. Tom was riding a stallion, a big gray stallion. They took first place, but at the end of their round...
In this class you're talking about.
In the Derby, right. And there was actually $1,500 in prize money, which made it even more exciting.
Okay.
But it turns out that the judges noticed that Tom's horse was bleeding on both sides of the girth. And their first instinct was to think that it was from excessive use of his spurs. And they asked him to come over and bring his horse so that the veterinarian could inspect it. And it was concluded without hesitation that Mr. Friedrichs actually caused his horse to bleed through excessive use of his spurs.
And it was probably more noticeable. You said he had a gray horse.
Yeah, and it was pretty bad too. There was a lot of blood. This wasn't just a little rub mark. It was a lot of blood. And
so what'd they do?
They stripped his ribbon and the prize money.
Wow.
And it was a little bit scandalous, but there was absolutely no hesitation from the vet that this was caused by, it was basically rider abuse. And we've seen this guy around. He's been banned from more than a few sanctioned events. And the Myopia Horse Show is a non-sanctioned event. It's not rated. It's a local show. So he was able to participate, but there have been, from my knowing this man's activities in this area, he and his stable have been banned from sanctioned events. So now he's banned from any future events that are put on by the Myopia Hunt.
Man, it's actually kind of sad for the kids riding there, with him.
It's horrible.
And
there are rules in the rule book, in the USEF rule book. There's a very specific rule. It's under cruelty and abuse of the horse, and it's actually called the letting of blood, except for diagnostic purposes.
Okay.
It doesn't get any more clear than that. But because this was not a sanctioned event, the only thing that the show organizers could do was take away his ribbon and his prize money.
Well, they did the right thing.
They did. And, I would be interested to hear from some of our listeners, if given the opportunity to get this man's attention and talk to him, what might you say to him about this situation? Leave us a voicemail, send us an email. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Some people might take the perspective of the guy probably just needs to be educated, and some people may take the perspective that the guy needs to be taken out back and taught a lesson.
Right.
Now, obviously, we don't want to condone that, but I would be interested to hear some people's ideas of how to get through to somebody like this and get them to understand it's not okay to do this to your horse.
Well, hopefully this was embarrassing enough to at least wake him up a little bit.
Yeah, cross your fingers.
All right, and on the eventing front, this is an exciting week. We have the Burghley Horse Trials starting tomorrow. It, of course, is the fourth in the HSBC FEI Classic Series. That's five. What that is 5 events that happen around the world that all of the riders that win those events and get like second, third, fourth, and fifth each get points towards this series championship. Right now, the series championship is being led by William Fox Pitt from the UK. Philip Dutton's number 2. Nicolas Tizant from France is number 3, and Rebecca Holder from the USA is number 4.
All right.
So that's how it stands right now. Burghley, I've never been there, but everybody I've talked to who has been there said it's one of the most beautiful events ever. And, of course, the location is beautiful. It's at the Burghley Castle, which, if you don't know what that's like, you can go to our blog at stablescoop.com. There's a picture and a couple of blog entries of the Burghley Castle. I did find some fun stats here coming up to the show. There are more than 5,875 man-hours are involved in setting everything up and taking it down for the show.
Wow. This is a 4-star, right?
This is a 4-star, right.
Okay.
And I should have said that the HSBC FEI Classic Series is all 4-star events.
What does HSBC...
That's a bank. It's the sponsor.
Is it a company?
It's a bank. Yes.
The bank. Oh,
Yep.
sorry. Okay.
Yep. So they're a bank that's sponsoring it, and there's actually a lot of prize money. There's over 4 years they're donating like $1 million. The winner of this series gets $150,000. So there's a good bit of money here, especially in eventing dollars. That's a good bit of money. Eventing tends to have less money than 100 jumpers or jumpers do. So that's a good amount of money for eventers.
Do they don't do prize money for Rolex, do they?
Yes. I think Rolex is $50,000.
So this is way out. This is like serious money.
Yeah, if you get the series championship, you're taking home some bucks.
Nice. Good for news for eventers.
Yeah, anyway, finally paying for that expensive sport. A couple other interesting stats here from Burghley. They have over 3 miles of rope for the parking lot areas, and on Saturday of the event they have 140 acres just in parked vehicles. And
does that include trailers?
No, this is just the spectators. They get a huge amount of spectators at this thing. They also have a dog show in which 600 dogs participate. And the dog shows that the horse shows that have the dog shows with them, like Fair Hill does that in Maryland, they're always a lot more fun because there's just a lot of activity going on. You have the dogs walking around and all the people that come to watch the dogs, and then all the people that are watching the horses, and it just adds a new dimension to an already fun day.
Yeah.
It just
gets everybody involved.
Right. Now,
so even if you're not riding, you can have a little fun by showing your dog.
I always spent more time over at the dog stuff, but that's because I'm a horse husband. So now, one of my favorite things about the Burghley was the amount of food being eaten over there. They expect to serve 11,000 baguettes, 1.5 tons of pork.
Oh my God!
Yeah, 7,000 glasses of Pimm's, which is apparently a drink that they drink in England. 40,000 cups of tea and coffee, and 50,000 bottles of other drink. So there's your statistics for Burghley coming up, and I'm sure everybody's looking forward to having a great time there.
I think 1.5 tons of pork. That's a big one.
That's a lot of pigs. It's a lot of pigs. That's a lot of pork. So that's what's going on at Burghley, and we'll, I'm sure, next week be talking about who won.
Yeah, and we've got the link. We'll post the link up to the horse trials online in the show notes.
Okay, great.
All right. We also have the Hampton Classic, which ran last weekend, and we've got the youngest rider in the 33-year history of the show to win the class, and that was Hillary Dobbs. It was a $200,000 FTI Grand Prix. And so we say congratulations to Hillary. Interestingly, Hillary hasn't done just horses. She's also has an education. She is a Harvard University junior, so she's got some brains to go along with her athletic ability. And we'd like to say congratulations to Hillary for a job well done.
From what I hear about Hillary, she's also just a very nice person. She's very cordial, and I've heard her in interviews, and she just seems like a very nice kid.
Yeah, just down to earth, friendly.
Yep,
just like the rest of us, loves her horses. And
it was interesting. She was only the second person to win Friday's Grand Prix qualifier there, and then turn around and win this Sunday Grand Prix.
Right.
So she was only one of 5 that was clear in the jump off. So on Sunday, so she did a good job. She's the one everybody's talking about right now. There's a really good crop of youngsters coming up in the jumper field right now.
That's good. So that's a discipline that we want to keep an eye on. And the jumpers are popular. Over in the Olympics, we're gold medal winners. Somehow the U.S. jumping team really seems to be staying on top. I mean, the eventers, and dressage, they're always right up there as well. But for some reason, show jumping seems to be our thing. So I think that's the discipline to watch over the next couple of years, especially with the WEG games coming up.
Yes, and we should mention the name of her horse. We're sometimes lax at doing that, and we have to be better about that. But she actually won on Corlette, and that's a German-bred mare. And also on Saturday, she rode another horse, Marengo. She actually won the national championship, the Classics national championship on Saturday on Marengo. So she had a pretty good weekend.
Right, and that wasn't a fluke. She's really a consistent up and coming rider.
Right. And from that, we congratulate Hillary, and then go on to Brooklyn, New York City, where this is only a funny story because nobody got hurt. And being a driver, I've had this happen to me. Being a horse driver, that is, I've had this happen to me, and not with the size carriage that they had here. And it's a very scary thing. What happened was there was one of the horse-drawn buggies that goes through the cities, and everybody knows them. They're the big white ones, the vis-a-vis that was going through the city. Well, apparently they were going to pick up a wedding party, the bride, for a wedding, and they were about a block away when something gave way underneath the buggy. A piece of the buggy gave way. It hit the horses in the butt. It was a pair of grays, and the horses bolted, and they took off apparently down the street, took off. Or I have to quote this article right here. It says they were a block away from the wedding, but before she could get in, a wooden bar into the buggy snapped, striking one of the horses in the rear. Then it was off to the races. That's how they described it in the article. The buggy driver tells the Post, "I held onto the reins with my body off to the side of the carriage as the horses wildly dragged him down 12th Avenue towards 66th Street. They jumped onto a car waiting at a traffic light. The horses did.
Oh, my God.
Shattering the windshield, nearly knocking the buggy driver loose. But he managed to hold on through all of this. The horses jumped onto a car, but he managed to hold on long enough to steer the wagon. He steered it into a traffic pole, explaining my only choice was to direct the horses in a direction that could prevent someone from getting hurt. Because you got to remember, this is Brooklyn. This is there's people walking everywhere. It's I think it was Saturday. There's people walking everywhere, so he just ran them into a pole. I'll put pictures up on the show notes. There's actually pictures of the carriage, and it got pretty smashed up.
My mouth is wide open right now.
I know.
Listening to this. Now, was the bride in the buggy this whole time?
No, they hadn't gotten there yet. They did talk to her, and she decided to go through with the wedding anyway, despite the ominous symbolism of the incident, the article said. The article was just kind of funny how it was written. The reporter obviously had a sense of humor. And the reason he had a sense of humor is nobody was hurt. The horses are fine. They had a couple cuts and bruises on their legs, but everybody was fine. So, and the buggy driver did sustain a little bit of an injury to his face. But all things considered, this ended up as good as it could have ended up in the middle of a city.
Yep.
I actually got to drive my pony. We were on we used to belong to a carriage club, the Lancaster Carriage Club in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and we go on drives every weekend in different places. Well, they used to do a drive every year in Philadelphia, right in the city, in the park at the city. Well, to get to the park, we had to park across the street and down the block. So we parked down the block, and you had to drive your buggy through the stoplights in the middle of the city. 4 lanes, the whole thing, in the turn lane, and you had to drive your buggies one by one up through there to get to the park where the drive actually started. So I've had this experience of driving in a city. It's interesting experience.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I just don't think that cities and horses mix at all on any level. If they can be born and raised and ridden in a park, that's one thing, but you just getting them, you have to drive through a major metropolitan area. No way. Couldn't do it. And you know what? It just yet one more reason to say horses and buggies don't belong in the city. I know I'm probably going to get totally flamed for this, but
yeah,
I just
you're probably going to get emails.
That's fine. I personally don't believe it. It's just not fair because horses do what horses do. Things break, they spook. I don't care how dead broke your horse is. Something happens. And
I had the pleasure.
This guy was lucky that nobody got hurt. He's lucky his horses didn't get hurt.
Yes, this was a lucky incident here. I lived in Lancaster City, or I worked in Lancaster City right on the square, so I got a different story here, but I got to watch the police horses at work all the time because they had quite a few there. And it was amazing to watch the police horses work in the city to chase people down and
but you know what? There's a difference there.
There is a definite difference.
That's a working horse. This horse his job isn't to make money. And I guess that's what the problem is when you put a horse in a city environment like that, their job is to make money. And at the end of the day, the money always wins out. When somebody has to make a decision based on the horse's welfare, it's a hard decision to make because it's either what goes into their pocket or what goes into their horse's best interest. And in my opinion, it's never the horse's best interest that wins out.
All right, you're answering the emails for that one, you know.
That's fine. Bring it on. Bring it on. But a police horse, there's no money to be made there. They have a job to do. And they're also I just think that their care takes on a more, if this is the right word, more altruistic meaning.
Yes, and I hope to have somebody on. I know several people who are policemen that are equine cops, so we hope to have one of them on here one of these days to talk about it and to tell us stories here.
Yeah, that would be a really cool interview.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear more about that.
All right, and now on to a more serious subject is the Equestrian Olympics are sort of in peril for 2012. Everybody just assumes that all of these sports that have been in for a long time stay in. That's not necessarily the case, and that right now it looks like, according to Princess Haya, who is the FEI, what is she, the president of the FEI, she says there's a huge fight right now to even keep the equestrian events in the 2012 Olympics in England.
Why is that?
Well, apparently she claims that the popularity of dressage is abnormally low, and there are complaints about the judging and the makeup of panels and committees. Apparently, there's all kinds of infighting, and that also because of the drugging incidents that just happened, and apparently they're very expensive to put on because of the venting area that you need and getting the horses in and taking care of the horses. There's just all this that goes into bringing the riders into the Olympics. So apparently there's a lot of argument against keeping the equestrian events at the Olympics.
All equestrian events or just dressage?
No, she says, well, actually, her quote here, what did she say? Hold on one second while I take a look. She basically said that keeping show jumping in by itself, which is the most popular event,
right,
would be difficult.
Oh,
so,
I guess you would need the support of all three disciplines, show jumping, dressage, and eventing, in order to keep the whole program running. I could see how that might be a problem.
Go ahead.
But it says, popularity of dressage is abnormally low. Well, what is normal?
Right.
What level of popularity is normal? From what I understand, the equestrian events had an attendance rate of something like 80% in Hong Kong, which is pretty good, right?
Yes. Yeah, and I from what I heard, it was around 155,000 spectators. Now, it could have been because it was one of the only Olympic events in Hong Kong, in the city of Hong Kong. I don't know.
Oh, because everything else was in Beijing?
Yeah, everything else was on the mainland.
Okay.
So, you don't know that, but I got to believe that people like to watch the horses anyway. People like to watch horses. So, and, dressage may not be as popular as jumping or eventing, but still,
I know, it looked pretty well attended from what I watched on TV.
And they've been in the Olympics for a long time. But, this could be because there's sports that are trying to get in that are, putting up a fight. In order for new sports to come in, they try and take old unpopular ones out. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll keep an eye on that. I think that Princess, and I don't know how you say her name. Do you know?
I don't. Haya, Princess Haya
is how I say it.
What's she a princess of?
She is the second wife to the, I think he's referred to as the prime minister, basically the Sultan of Dubai. So, yeah, she's also the daughter of the departed King Hussein of, what was that, Syria?
Oh my gosh, you're asking the wrong girl.
Yeah. So she came from royalty and married into the most wealthy royalty there is in the world.
Okay.
And I'm very familiar with the Sultan of Dubai because he owns a lot of land here in Lexington.
Oh, and that's interesting.
Yeah, he owns.
Oh, well, no, actually not. That makes sense.
They're into race horses, and they own many of the big farms here. They bought millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of farms here.
Okay, that makes sense.
As a matter of fact, it's one of the things, having the Arab money in this area has helped keep the area going. Some of these farms would be really hurting had there not been an influx of that money. And they pretty much, they hire local people, and they pretty much let the local managers run the show, and they have usually have local trainers. So, it's actually been a pretty good thing for the area. There's not a lot of complaining about it here.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think she's on the side of keeping the sports in. She herself was a serious rider, so she's definitely for keeping the sports in. So we'll see what happens there, but it's not a given that we're going to have equestrian sports in 2012.
So what can the average horse person do that might support the equestrian sports and Olympics? Is there somebody we can call or write to, or how can we ensure its safety?
I don't know. That I don't know. That's
Well,
a good
why don't we
question.
find out, and we'll post some links on the show notes, and
Okay.
and then
if anybody does know, drop us an email or give us a call.
Right.
And I think right now that I think it looks like Anastasia's coming on the line, so we should say hi to her. Let's just talk a little bit about Anastasia before we get to her interview. Her name's Anastasia Burke. She is actually an author of a book. She writes several blogs. She has apparently a beautiful farm in Pilot Hill, California, and she has a unbelievably inspiring story to tell. Her life has not always been easy, and she's had some trauma in her life that she's had to overcome, and it's what she's accomplished since then that makes her story so amazing. So we'll get Anastasia on the line. Hi, Anastasia. How are things in California this morning?
Things are gorgeous and sunny, and I'm looking forward to going for a ride after this.
What part of California are you in?
We are in a place called Pilot Hill, which is a little slice of heaven just about 6 miles from where gold was discovered in 1849.
And in north-south?
It's north.
North?
It's north, yeah, on the American River. So when I go ride my horse, I get to go play in the river every day.
Oh, wow. Isn't that cool?
Oh, it's fabulous.
Well, Helena is here as well from Boston.
Hi, Helena.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're in. I think we've got all three parts of the country covered, don't we, Glenn?
Yes, we do.
Missed the middle, or did we get the middle too?
I'm in the middle.
Oh, you're in the middle. That's right. Yeah, Kentucky. Okay, cool.
All right. Well, let's talk. There's so much to talk about with you. I think we should probably just start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about, were you a rider from young, or did you start later in life?
You know, I was one of those children that was born and, you know, came out of the womb saying, horsey, horsey. And I started riding when I was 6, and I've been riding ever since, decades later. I started out competing in hunter-jumper shows, got my first horse when I was 10. It was this surly Arab whose star moment was bucking me off in the ring when they said canter, and then I got a 6th-place ribbon because there were 6 horses in the class.
Right.
And I was so excited, I burst into tears. It was just, you know, it was the best thing ever, and it got me hooked. And I ended up competing in hunter-jumpers for quite some time and then switched over to eventing in my teens. Had a goal to maybe make the Olympics and actually qualify for the screening trials 1,000 years ago, and that was quite an experience.
Oh, really?
Kind of, yeah. Mm-hmm. I had a terrible fall at that event, so I wouldn't say it was a really great moment. However, there were some incredible moments during that where I learned a lot about myself and about how to think, how to be a thinking rider, that kind of thing.
You rode all the way through your 20s and kept competing, or did you stop competing at some point?
I stopped competing in my 20s for a while, but I was never really away from horses. And then I got married and had children and started training. And I opened up a training facility in Montera, California, which is down near Half Moon Bay on the coast, where they have the big pumpkin festival every year.
Oh, yes.
Did that for quite some time, and then fate sort of decided that I wouldn't be doing it anymore. I had my first go with vision loss, when I was like 32. Had young kids, and I was running a training facility, and suddenly just lost my vision one morning, and then it came back the next day, but they couldn't figure out what was wrong, and you know,
wait a minute, you just woke up one day and you couldn't see it all?
I did. I remember I was lying in bed and I was reading a book in the morning, and the words just started looking like somebody had dropped water on the page, and they were getting very distorted. And then within about 2 hours, I couldn't see anything. And they took me to the hospital, and strangely, I lost all the vision in my left eye, and then the right eye came back. And then, you know, obviously they were trying to figure out what was going on. And at the same time, I was going through a divorce, and all sorts of things were going on. So I quit training and quit running this training facility. And then I lost my vision completely just a few years later. The same thing happened again, just out of the blue. I was out feeding horses and bent over a grain barrel, and when I stood up, I sort of was seeing stars, and all of a sudden, everything just went black. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was amazingly scary.
I bet.
Especially because I was alone at the time and I had to sort of crawl back to the house, and it was, it's pitch black. I mean, I literally had no vision at all. Wonderful little country doctor, a friend came and got me and took me to a little country doctor who, how gross can we be here? I mean, I don't want to give anybody the heebie-jeebies, but he, stuck a needle in my eye, pulled out some of the pressure, and then got me over to Stanford Hospital. And
I don't think we have to worry about heebie-jeebies with horse people too much.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's true.
Most of us hit the ground pretty hard, so we're good with heebie-jeebies.
Haven't you ever noticed that horse people can stick a needle anywhere in their horse, but when it comes to themselves, they're not quite so.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So calm about it. So anyway, from that point on, I spent a year in Stanford Hospital, basically in and out of treatment. And the thing that I have is called Eales disease. It's a very rare autoimmune disorder that affects only the eyes. And they just didn't know anything about it at the time. So the treatment was, experimental. I was put on a form of chemotherapy, which, gosh, was so much fun. Massive doses of steroids, just, anything they could think of to reduce inflammation, which is characteristic of the disease. From there, got some other problems, developed glaucoma, my retina started to tear. There were all sorts of things going on with my eyes. But finally, I guess after a year of that, I was sort of being a guinea pig. Felt very noble at the beginning, like, oh, help us all to, how to treat this disease. And finally I just went, I need a quality of life. So I accepted my blindness, and at the time I would say, if I could describe what I saw, like shapes and shadows. I could navigate a little bit, but I went through the whole process with the Peninsula Center for the Blind, who, by the way, sponsors a horse show here, a very large horse show called the Menlo Charity Show every year. And the proceeds from that go to benefit the Peninsula Center for the Blind. I believe they're called something else now, but that's what they were then. So this very enormous A show that gets all the top riders in the country benefits this organization that helped me learn how to use a cane and how to boil water and how to clean my house. It's amazing if you try and close your eyes the next time you're cleaning your bathroom and see how you do.
Yeah. I don't even like doing that with my eyes open.
Yeah, well, if you saw my bathroom, you'd want to close your eyes.
So I guess at that point I had maybe 20% vision is the best way I can describe it, and just a lot of, really, really, really blurry. And I also developed something called photophobia, which means I get too much light. So if I looked anywhere into the sun, it was just a whiteout. So lots of fun.
And I think, that is a tragic story. And you said you were only, one of 40-some in the country at that point who'd even...
They just didn't know anything about it. And, it's really funny that you say it's a tragic story, because at the time I really felt sorry for myself. I became very depressed. I was a mess. And at some point I decided, one of my kids came to visit me at the hospital, he was a little sweet boy, and he looked at me finally, he says, "Mommy, what are we going to do?" And I thought, wow, this kid, I think I've been through it for the last year. What are my children going through? And at that point, I knew that I had to make a decision about, I was either going to be depressed and sad and angry and feeling like a victim for the rest of my life, or I was going to make a change. And literally, change it's a decision. And I made the decision that day that I was going to have a different kind of life. And did you guys ever play that game when you were a little kid, like, if you had a choice, would you rather be deaf or blind or have no legs?
Yes, everybody's done that, I think.
Yeah, and my choice would absolutely be lose my eyesight, because for me it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I look at it as a total gift. It helped me focus on what was important. It helped me understand a little bit more about who I was, who I am, and what I could become, instead of, I had a very strong sort of victim mentality at the time, that things that happened to me were everybody else's fault, and I was just a victim. And I was angry with my parents, and, I was just this angry individual. And losing my eyesight really got me in touch with the spiritual part of who we all are. And I mean, to this day, I can't say enough about how grateful I am for that experience.
Wow, that's incredible. And I think what the lesson here is what you have accomplished after. I mean, you have done so much, and that's why at the beginning of the interview I said we have so much to go over because you've done so much even since then that is so incredible, cited or not. Let's talk a little bit about where you've gone from there. You still ride?
I still ride. I'm one of those people, I feel sort of like first of all, they're my four-legged therapists, and, there's just nothing better. As I believe it was Will Rogers that said, there's nothing better for the inside of a man than the outside of a horse, and boy, is that true, even for women. So
how do you ride?
I'm sorry?
How do you ride? I know that sounds like a dumb question.
Well, there's a little bit more to my story, which is that I this was the irony of it all. Acceptance is an amazing thing because I finally got to the point where I went, okay, this is my vision. Now I'm going to learn to deal with it. And I went 5 years really sort of reconstructing who I was, my beliefs, my, how I felt about myself internally, all sorts of things. And I went to the doctor finally I hadn't been to the doctor in 5 years. I never wanted to see another one again. I'd been poked and prodded so much. And he said, you got to go get your eyes checked. So I'm sitting in this ophthalmologist's office, and I haven't been there for 5 years. And out of the blue, my eyes hemorrhaged. And he went, whoa, I can't deal with this. And he referred me to somebody else who is an expert in my disease. And ironically enough, I never would have known this if I hadn't hemorrhaged that day in the office, but there's so many new procedures available, and one of them is a steroid injection that goes directly in the eye. And we did that for about 2 years, and my vision improved so much. I actually even got my driver's license back, although it's extremely limited and restricted, and I probably won't get it back again in March when I go. But I hadn't driven a car in 8 years.
Wow.
And now they're doing something with me. I get injections into the eye every 4 weeks of something called Avastin, which originally was developed to deal with colon cancer tumors. It helps stop leakage. So now they're putting it in my eye, so I'm officially a butthead. So I can actually see a little bit better than I could, originally when I sort of accepted that. And I thought it was just sort of interesting that once I accepted my situation, all these things started coming into play that I didn't even ask for. And they came to me very ironically. And you have to look at those things and sort of go, okay, there's something out there working that's much bigger than me. Because, so now the answer to your question is, in a long way, I have a standard bred that I was given off the track here at Cal Expo. She was a pacer. I was going to return her and then took her out for a trail ride here where we ride at beautiful Cronin Ranch in Pilot Hill. And I had the best ride of my entire life. I'd ridden thoroughbreds my entire life, and I got on this horse. And she has quite a thoroughbred look to her, but she has more of a quarter-horse personality. So she was very, very quiet, and no bucking, no rearing, no craziness, and I'm in love with her. She's quite a character. And so I'm doing, we're in endurance country here, and, they kind of suck you into it. So I'm doing a lot of distance riding right now, and I actually am back teaching a little bit, and the focus of my teaching obviously has changed. I can't see details and nuances as much as what would be required for someone who is competing quite heavily. But for people who are beginning riding, who want to get into horses as a way to de-stress, get back to nature, get centered mentally and physically, I'm the gal.
Well, and along that lines, another thing you did was write a book.
I did write a book.
So tell us about the book.
Now, which one are we talking about?
Well, I think you wrote one for kids called Hoof Prints.
Yes, Hoof Prints. I met my wonderful, known as the best husband in the world, Craig. I met Craig 9 years ago, and he was very much into strategic planning. And as we started talking about his work and what he did with governments and organizations to help them plan their futures, I thought, gosh, this is something that kids could really use for horseback riding. And basically, even, from anything from wanting to compete at the nationals, the Pony Club Nationals in Kentucky, to saving money to buy a horse of her own, a little girl could take this book and learn how to set a goal, what makes a good goal, what makes a bad goal, because there are bad goals and good goals, how to move forward and achieve their dreams. And it was just great fun to write. There wasn't anything out there on the market like it. Sometimes that's been a little bit of a hard sell because there's nothing out on the market like it. Strategic planning for children is sort of a novel concept. I believe in the old maxim that those who fail to plan to fail, and this is sort of a way of getting kids into the frame of mind of thinking about goals and how to set a goal, how to create an action plan, which will be helpful not only for horseback riding, but, in all aspects of their lives.
Yes, and now what's the book called?
The book is called Hoof Prints. It is a goal-setting journal for young riders. And I did the illustrations as well. There's lots of little fat ponies and kids.
Yeah, it's kind of cute, actually.
Thank you.
I didn't realize you did the illustrations, too.
Yeah, and there's stickers in the back with a little photo album section so they can keep track of, photos of all their barn pals and horses they ride and, all that kind of thing. So I'm very proud of it. It was a work of love, but something I also felt could really change kids' lives. And I think that my thing right now is not just to teach riding, but to teach people how to believe in themselves and how to achieve any goal, whether it's riding related or something else, music. Kids, whether they want to become an Olympic gymnast or a baton twirler or a horseback rider or a doctor, whatever they want to achieve, I would like to think that, them learning something about goal setting through hoof prints can help them achieve those other things.
That's great. And now, where can they get it?
They can get it on Amazon, or they can get it off my website, which I think there's a link to it on Box of Stars, which is the other book I've written. If they go to www.boxofstars.com, Anastasia Burke, which is really a big thing for me.
We'll put the link in the show notes, too, for anybody who wants to stop by.
It's really long. That's the second book I wrote, which is on a blog, and I post a chapter a week, and it's a book about... That's where I found you initially, and I thought it was so fascinating that you were doing this sort of live online horse book. Well, there's something called National Novel Writing Month that occurs in November every year, NaNoWriMo. And the goal there is that if you want the goal is that there's no prizes other than, your own mental glory, that you write a 50,000-word novel in a month. So for the entire month of November, you write every day. And I thought, well, I'm going to do it. And I started this thing kind of knowing the idea that I wanted a 14-year-old girl, and I had this idea that there could be a book for all 4 years as she tries to qualify for the National Young Riders team in eventing. So I wrote the novel in 30 days, and the idea there is quantity, not necessarily quality. So I then spent the next year sort of rewriting it. And the fact is, Glenn, I'm so busy right now that I don't even have time to really look for an agent, although the novel is being considered right now by one, and we'll see what happens.
Oh, wow. Well, good luck with that.
Well, thanks. At the time I posted, I thought, my goal here was not necessarily to be famous, but to write a book that was good, that kids would enjoy reading. And I had it test read by about 15 girls across the country who I found on EquiChat, and they loved it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put it up, because I just couldn't get enough of horse books when I was a kid. And I, there's a lot of girls out there. I mean, the character in my book, she comes from a pretty strict family. They're very supportive of her writing, but, they don't let her swear. She can't own an iPod. She's a little bit of an odd duck. She's not real, hip with the internet and things like that, because she's not allowed to be. And it was amazing to me. I was really surprised at how many kids said, I can totally relate to her. It sounds like my family, and so it's really fun to have it up there and get emails from kids who say, I totally relate to this. And the idea of the story is that she is going to face a challenge, and that she's going to overcome it by not through others' help, but by believing in herself and sort of learning that she has the capabilities and the intelligence and the courage within her to overcome anything that faces her.
Now, how do you stay in touch with that teenage perspective on life and horses? Do you have kids of your own, and are they teenagers?
I never grew up.
Are you 12 too?
I am. That's actually my husband keeps it. He said to me last night, he goes, "What is this thing with you and horses? Are you like a 12-year-old girl?"
Absolutely.
I'm like, yes, I am.
She could co-host this show, let me tell you.
So you're just tapping into the inner child. You don't necessarily have teenage girls.
I'm not only, exactly. I have children. However, they're all pretty much grown now. We just sent the last one off to college at 18. So my kids are 22, 20, and 18. But I have a lot of kids in my life, teenage girls and pre-teenage girls. There's three in particular that I'm very, very close to, who Heidi and Mariah and Tasha, who keep me in tune with what's going on, what's hip. And also, I had a gal named Keely, who lives out on the East Coast, who read my book diligently and would write me back and say, well, I would change this or that. And she just really kept me in touch. And she's been a huge inspiration to me and a great guide. So it's been really neat going through this process and having these kids be involved in it.
It's amazing that you can continue to learn from the children around you.
Well, I think that it's probably really trite to say it, but unless you commit to being a life learner, you lose what life is about a lot.
Right.
And, I just think it's really important to keep an open mind and not think you know it all. In fact, I just wrote an article the other day for my other blog, which is an adult blog called Best Horse. I talked about how I have this very, very good friend who is also my trainer named Natalie Guillaume, who is an incredible inspiration to me. She came over here from France. She did not speak any English at all. In France, you cannot teach unless you actually go through like a 4-year college program. So she did all that, and she's very, very good at what she does. But she came over here without any language, without knowing anybody. And to this day, she now is the trainer for the Redwood Pony Club in Marin County, and she's taking her kids to nationals and all this kind of stuff. But the reason I admire her so much is because she, to me, has so much knowledge, and yet she's always open to asking questions. I think that I wrote an article about that the other day, just because I know that you can often run into horse people who, how do I say this nicely, feel compelled to give you advice that you didn't ask for, and that kind of know-it-all type of horse person.
We don't know anybody like that.
Yeah. And I kind of want to be the kind of horse person that's really willing to take advice, and even when it's unsolicited, and keep an open mind, because that's how we learn. Like now, I'm surrounded by endurance people, and I've been an eventer all my life, and I'm kind of switching my discipline right now, and it's been very interesting because I don't know anything about the sport. I really don't. I know how to get out on a trail and trot, but there's a lot of things about it that are very different from, say, dressage, where you have a lot of contact with the horse. In endurance, you want to have your horse on a long, loose rein and let them find the trail instead of guiding them. And that, for me, has been a metaphor for life.
Right. Well, the first thing you need to learn is that usually they don't use standardbreds.
No, they don't. They actually don't. But you know what? Everybody that sees my horse and watches her walk says, that could be a good thing. So I'm never going to be one of these people that does the Tevis and is riding at midnight and, on a single-track trail with a cliff on one side and a mountain on the other. It's been really fun to get into this and learn something new, especially at my age. So,
I mean, you've done all this stuff even since the blindness. What was that, maybe 15 years ago now?
It's been 12 years. Yeah.
12 years ago. You've done all this stuff. You have 2 blogs. You're writing a book online. You've written other books. And what is this about a vacation, horse vacation? I mean, you've had kids, you have a new husband, and now you let me know about horsevacation.blogspot.com. Now, what's that?
Okay, well, he's an old husband now, so.
Oh.
I mean, he's not old, but he's, you know. I mean, we've been
I
together
hope
for a
he
long
doesn't
time
listen
now.
to this, Helena.
But he is the best husband in the world.
That is
That's
the
right.
best husband in the world. That's what all my friends
He's
call him,
the
because every
old
time I write
best
about
husband
him.
in the world.
And you know what? It takes time to earn that title.
Oh, he got it even before we were married. He is absolutely. That's one of those little gifts from God, I think, that I've been very, very blessed. So the horse vacation is that we moved from Marin County up to this little slice of heaven. We bought this house 3 years ago, and then we're waiting for our last child to get out of high school so we could get out of Dodge. And so the place that we bought, we have a cottage on it that we renovated, just ripped the place apart down to the concrete foundation and rebuilt it. And it is a little cowboy cottage all decorated with, you know, cowboy memorabilia. And you can bring your horse here to vacation and go ride on these 1,800 acres of absolutely pristine, gorgeous trails that can go forever. And actually...
Wow.
Yeah, and the Tevis Trail is about 10 minutes from our house as well, so you can come here and trailer. And there's a lot of people that come from all over the world to ride here. So we've kind of, that's going to be our little retirement thing, is this little cottage that, you know, you can use our horses, and I'll take you out for a trail ride, or you can bring your own.
Hey, Helena, I see a live interview in our future in California.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. We'll call it research first.
Yes, that's right.
Then we'll have to go back for the interview.
Excellent.
Over and over and over again because we'll keep messing it up.
Excellent. And then we'll put you on a standard bred, Glenn, and you will
there you
see
go.
the light.
There you go. Can I be behind the standard bred? I'm a driver, not a rider.
Actually, Glenn, Jennifer, your wife, is a big fan of standard breds,
Yes,
especially ex-racing standard breds.
She likes the jugheads. And yours does not look like a jughead, I have to say.
No, she's not a jughead, although it's pretty funny. And boy, don't you know, she'll let you know that she isn't either. She thinks she's quite special.
And is that the one you have the picture of with you leaning over
Yes.
on the website? We'll put that in our show notes as well so people can see,
That's
see you
Miss
and your pony.
Cordelia. She raced. She was a pacer, and she still thinks she is sometimes. There's nothing better than being out on the trail cantering and having her switch into the pace, which is, you got to ride it to know.
Yes, yes.
You know, it's lateral trotting, and so and hers is very big. So I've heard people say, "Oh no, you can just sit it. It's wonderful." No, not on this horse, you can't. But it just always makes me laugh. I just find it extremely funny. But
Actually,
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. No, it brings me to an interesting question. And when you're out riding on the trails, how does your current vision? How does that work? Are you able to see enough? Like you said, when you're out riding, you let the horse you're riding on a loose rein and you sort of let them pick their way. How does that work in terms of the relationship between you and your mount?
Well, that's a really interesting question. First of all, my vision has improved to the point where I have maybe, I waver between being legally blind and having 20/70 vision, which I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but
That means everything's really, really blurry.
everything is really blurry. And so when I'm trotting, or, you know, I do let the horse sort of take over for me, and I'm very focused on the horse's ears and head because I can't see deer or anything like that they might be looking at. So I'm extremely aware of the horse's body language, definitely. And I think that I noticed when I started riding, again after I lost my vision, that I was much more in tune with the horse's body and also more relaxed, oddly enough, because I just felt like I really had to center my thoughts much more on the horse instead of, I don't know, what my instructor was thinking about me.
Instead of where you were going, yeah.
Yeah. So out on the trail, the person that gave me Cordelia, actually, the person that bred her, had another horse that just came to our house about 4 weeks ago. You know, these horses, they're amazing. They're just amazing. The horse had never had a saddle on his back, and we put a saddle on him that day. 5 days later, I was standing up on top of him, and he's just standing there. He's so quiet. He's 5 years old. You could, my last thoroughbred, no way.
Yeah, exactly.
No way would that happen. And so I took him out the other day, and a deer or something, I'm not sure what it was. It might have been a coyote. I couldn't tell. darted in front of us, and this little horse took off, and I just kind of trust the horse that they know what they're doing a little bit more than I do. But at the same time, I think when you're the kind of rider that I am and you have limited vision or you have limited anything, you need to make sure that you are on a horse that is trustworthy, so that you have more of a partnership. I mentioned the horse that's on the back cover of Hoofprints was my dream horse, who is the inspiration for Finnegan in Box of Stars. Steel gray thoroughbred, absolutely gorgeous. He was going to be my event horse. I decided I was going to go back and do eventing. I was considering doing Paralympic dressage riding. And when we decided to move, there just isn't quite the setup here yet for all that. And so it became very clear to me on a trail ride that this was a horse who belonged in the show ring and not out on the trails. And so it's really nice to have these other two standardbreds because they're just very reliable, very tractable.
Well, that's great. Hey, I'll tell you what, this has been a great interview. It's been so nice having you on here. We have somebody else, a good friend of ours that we've interviewed before by the name of Michael Richardson, who actually trains from a wheelchair. He lost use of his legs when he was 19, and he is the most positive, upbeat, inspirational person you'll ever want to talk to, and you're the same way, and we'd love to have you back again sometime.
Thank you very much. This has been really enjoyable, and I think it's great what you guys are doing. I listen to podcasts every day while I'm cleaning out my stalls, so this will be my new podcast.
Well, there you go. Now you have a horsey one to listen to.
Yes, exactly, and I'll spread the word definitely. And I guess the thing that I always, it's hard to spend, all this time talking about myself because I really think that the reason that I went through this vision loss was to help other people understand and go through the process that I did without quite so much pain and agony, perhaps, that whatever limitations, that you think you have, they're just thoughts, and that really, if you learn to change your thinking, and there's so many great techniques that I have now to help people do that anything, literally anything, is truly possible. And I think that's the thing that people really need to understand, whether it's, learning how to sit the trot or achieving some really huge goal in life. It's all about your thinking. So I just really appreciate you guys taking the time to, talk to me.
Oh, it was absolutely enjoyable.
Great. Well, listen, I'll keep in touch and spread the word about your show, and I just really appreciate you guys doing such a great work with the podcast.
And I want to mention that we're going to put all of your many links. There's too many for people to remember from the podcast. That's right. So we'll put all of those in the show notes at stablescoop.com so they can go find your book and your blogs and everything else you've got going there. Or if they want to stay in your cabin up there in California, which is the one I'm going to put my favorites for the next trip to California. So, all right, Anastasia, you have a great day.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks again. Have a great day.
We'll spread the word on the old Stable Scoop.
Okay, thanks. Well, we certainly appreciate Anastasia being on here this week, and we're kind of running out of time for this week's show, so we'll just pass the voicemails and emails that we have for this week on to next week. Be sure you listen next week. We'll have a lot more good stuff for you. We'll be talking about Burghley, I'm sure, and be sure to check out our show notes at stablescoop.com for episode 4. You'll find all the links that we talked about today, and especially all Anastasia's links. You just heard how many different things she has going on. If you want to check them out, go to the show notes. We also have our blogs. Helena and I do blogs at stablescoop.com. You can send us feedback by email at geeks@horseradionetwork.com. That's GEEKS. We couldn't have made that any harder. GEEKS@horseradionetwork.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 270-803-0025.
And don't forget, you can also send us, if you have local news that you want us to talk about, or a stable or organization that you think is worthy of being highlighted or just talked about, leave that on our voicemail or send us an email. We'd be happy to talk about that stuff too.
All right, great. See you next week, Helena.
And get the scoop.